Part 17. At the beginning, I gave the future empress her death. I became stronger because I was stupid. Author, Len Mian Buletin Leng. Chapter 161. Rush. Don't squeeze me, I want to go in first. What the immortal left behind, even just a trace of breath, is enough for me to break through to the realm of a saint. The crowd was surging, turning into a mess, rushing towards the immortal cave. Ji Hong I was stunned on the spot, looking confused. What's going on? This is obviously a fake, how could it be turned on? Ji Hong I was full of confusion. She glanced at Tianjaizi, only to find that Tianjaizi also looked confused. Xie Hong I frowned, feeling an ominous premonition. She subconsciously wanted to leave here. But at this moment, the whole space suddenly shook. Immediately afterwards, a golden beam of light appeared above the valley. Then I saw a giant tree that covered the sky and sun rising from the valley, emitting a bright light. Rumble. Countless thunders exploded out of thin air, lightning intertwined, and strong winds roared, as if the heaven and earth were reopening and all things were evolving. It seems to have fallen from the sky, and it seems to have been born from the void. Every leaf exudes a mysterious aura. It is suspended in mid-air, with golden light covering the earth, as beautiful as a dream, giving everyone an extremely strong visual impact and soul trembling. Everyone's breathing became rapid and heavy, and they stared at the giant tree. Ah! I feel the spirit of the fairy. Oh my God! So rich. I just took a whiff, and it seemed that my state of mind was loosened. Is there really a treasure of an immortal? Opportunity, what a great opportunity. This tree is definitely an immortal tree that only immortals can own. Countless monks became more and more crazy, their eyes were full of blazing fire, and they wanted to take the giant tree as their own immediately. The old woman in the shaking light Holy Land raised her head, and her pupils shot out a bright light, as if she had penetrated all things and saw the inside of the Xianjia cave. This is the enlightenment tree. She was confused, her eyes narrowed, and her voice was hoarse and low. I didn't expect that there really is a tree of enlightenment in this world. As soon as the statement came out, the whole place was in an uproar. The tree of enlightenment? Is this the legendary tree of enlightenment? Legend has it that every leaf of the enlightenment tree contains the truth of heaven and earth, and you only need a light touch to achieve enlightenment. No wonder this valley contains so much fairy spirit energy, so that's what happened. All the monks were breathing heavily, their eyes were full of greed and fire, and their whole bodies were shaking with excitement. Ji Hong I's eyes widened, staring at the towering ancient tree. The confusion in my heart filled my heart. She obviously only placed a colorful sky-mending stone, so where did the enlightenment tree come from? Suddenly, an idea flashed in Xie Hong I's mind, and a terrible guess came to mind. She subconsciously looked at Qin Mu. But she found that the other party was also looking at her, with a strange light flashing in her eyes, and the corner of her mouth raised a slight arc, half smiling, full of teasing and ridicule, creepy. Boom! A bone-chilling chill instantly filled the whole body, and Xie Hong I's delicate body froze slightly, as if struck by lightning. She subconsciously took a few steps back. At this moment, the towering ancient tree has completely revealed its true appearance. It is hundreds of feet high, with luxuriant branches and green leaves. Each leaf seems to carry a world, revealing a vast and profound meaning. There are vaguely ancient and mysterious golden runes engraved on it, exuding rich life fluctuations, like spring rain moistening things, nourishing all things in the world. In an instant, the surroundings were filled with green grass, the fragrance of flowers, and full of vitality. Further away, there are many birds and animals, chirping happily, as if they have been reborn. The whole world becomes new. My realm has really become loose. I'm about to break through too. It's so wonderful. I have never seen such a beautiful scene. It is 10 or 100 times more beautiful than what is depicted in any picture. The Enlightenment Tree. It's really the Enlightenment Tree. Ha 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 ha, I made a breakthrough, I finally entered the realm of the soul. This time it's really worth it. Quickly, snatch the immortal fate. At this moment, all the monks were excited, their eyes were burning, and they were trying their best to get closer to the Enlightenment Tree. Even the saints no longer waited and watched, and joined in one after another. They were still wary at first, fearing that there might be something weird hidden in this so-called immortal cave. But after seeing the appearance of the Enlightenment Tree with my own eyes, I completely gave up my worries. That's the Enlightenment Tree. With their current state, if they get the enlightenment effect of the Enlightenment Tree, they might be able to live another life. You can even get a glimpse of the higher level and step into the imperial realm. This is a rare opportunity that is rare in millions of years. If you miss it, you will miss it. Get out of my way. A big man in the realm of Dao Zhan roared angrily, holding a hammer and smashing forward. Blood splattered, and dozens of monks who had just approached the immortal cave were smashed into pulp, and their bodies fell to the ground. However, before the big man had time to be happy, an old man of saint level suddenly took action, smashed his body from the air, and forcibly suppressed his spirit. Humph! Who do you think you are? Are you worthy of competing with me for a chance? The saint shouted coldly, with a stern look in his eyes. He sealed the big man's soul with one palm, and then stretched out his hand to crush it. Ah! Screams continued, the man's soul was crushed into ashes and dissipated between heaven and earth. The other saints also acted in unison. They were so powerful that they swept across the 8 wastelands in just a moment and killed all the cultivators closest to the immortal cave. The weakest of these cultivators had the strength of the Yuanshen realm, and there were even several strong men in the Zandao realm. But they still had no power to resist the saints. In just a few seconds, thousands of cultivators died. Rumble. The saints took action one after another, and various killing moves emerged one after another, surrounding the immortal cave tightly. The remaining cultivators were all scared and retreated quickly. A large area near the Enlightenment Tree was immediately cleared. Only the group of saints at the top was left. What are you doing? Assholes! This is too much. You are a bunch of beasts. The other cultivators were furious and scolded them one after another, full of resentment. They didn't expect the other party to turn against them so quickly. They were just discussing things, but they turned against each other the next moment. How shameless! Since ancient times, opportunities have been owned by the strong. You are not strong enough, so you should go back and practice more. The Emperor Li Chengtian of the Daking dynasty looked at everyone and said indifferently. If it was before, the more people entered the immortal cave, the better, because if there was any danger, these people could serve as cannon fodder. But now that the Enlightenment Tree has appeared, these cannon fodder are no longer needed. Of course, they must be cleared out. After all, one less person means one less competitor. When the cultivators of other forces heard this, they gritted their teeth and clenched their fists. These words despised them again invisibly. But they couldn't refute it. These forces with saints were all top sects and great dynasties. They were indeed far inferior to them. Fellow deists, let's unite and fight them. Suddenly, a cultivator at the peak of the void realm roared and rushed out first. His action resonated with others, and soon several strong men at the void realm followed suit. Yes, fight. I don't believe they will really kill us all. Kill. Everyone attacked together and rushed up with murderous intent. There was no way. Although they were extremely afraid of these saints in their hearts, the temptation of the Enlightenment Tree was too great. So great that they were willing to take risks and go all out. At the beginning, I gave the future empress her death. I became stronger because I was stupid. Author, Len Mian Buletin Leng. Chapter 162. Looking for death, Li Chengtian, the emperor of the Daking dynasty, had a cold look in his eyes. He swung his right hand violently, and in an instant a destructive force erupted, directly knocking away dozens of powerful men in the void realm. Puff puff puff. Those people spat out blood and flew backwards, falling far away. However, more monks took the opportunity to break in. Humph, just a bunch of trash. Since you want to die, I will let you die happily. Li Chengtian's eyes were cold, and he raised his right foot and stomped the ground lightly, and a majestic pressure swept out. Bang bang bang. In an instant, dozens of monks died again. Unable to withstand a single blow, he retracted his foot, shook his head and sneered. But there were still countless monks who rushed to the immortal cave without fear of death. A large number of monks gathered next to the enlightenment tree, densely packed, as many as hundreds of thousands. Kill. Seize the opportunity. The enlightenment tree belongs to me. The shouts of killing were deafening, and tens of thousands of cultivators fought frantically. However, they were not good enough in front of the saint. The power of the saint was terrifying, and just releasing the majesty could suppress everything. Whether it was the Dongxia cultivator or the Zandao, they all trembled under this pressure, their bodies twitched violently, and they vomited blood. Humph! A mere ant actually dared to get involved in the enlightenment tree, it's so stupid. A white-haired saint sneered and punched out, instantly crushing thousands of cultivators. Other saints did not have the saint's mercy at all, and their moves were extremely cruel and merciless. In front of the enlightenment tree, everything was false, and anyone who dared to compete with them was an enemy. Let's join hands to suppress these villains first, and then divide the enlightenment tree equally. Nangong Lai of Ziwei Immortal Palace shouted loudly, and the spiritual energy around him surged, and he performed a unique skill. In an instant, the magic sword behind him burst into brilliant purple light, like a purple sun, shining in all directions. The saints and strong men of other forces also took action, and unprecedented offensive means surged out with terrible destructive power. The most terrifying ones were the demon head of the demon realm and the barbarian king of the barbarians. Their offensive means were even more terrifying. They were simply killing machines. Wherever they passed, no grass would grow. But in a moment, the outside of the immortal cave was a scene of devastation, and the blood dyed the entire mountain forest red. No matter who it was, as long as they dared to approach the immortal cave, they would all suffer terrible attacks and be torn to pieces. The broken corpses piled up into a mountain, and the strong smell of blood was extremely pungent. This was a one-sided slaughter. Unless one's strength reached the saint realm, no one could match the saint. Even at the Dao-slaying realm, there was no exception. However, even so, there were still countless cultivators who fought for the enlightenment tree. Everyone was bloodthirsty. Everyone knew that if they missed this time, there would be no chance again. This was the last hope, and the only chance. Kill! 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 The opportunity is mine. The enlightenment tree is mine. My fate is determined by me, not by God. Countless cultivators shouted and roared, like wild beasts, with bloodshot eyes. Ji Hongai's face was pale, and she stood there in a daze, at a loss. Or, they fought. When the enlightenment tree appeared, things were completely out of her control. At this time, even if she continued to say that the immortal cave was fake, no one would believe it. Because the enlightenment tree was right in front of them. There will definitely be more intense battles next. These saints seem to be allies at the moment, but in fact they each have their own ulterior motives. After all, they come from different forces, different camps, and even different races. And there is hatred between many saints. When they join forces to suppress these monks, it is probably the time to fight each other. How could it be, like this? Xuanhuan murmured, feeling a little cold in her hands and feet. She seemed to have made a big mistake. And this mistake will cause tens of thousands of monks to pay the price of their lives. Xuanhuan closed her eyes, unable to bear to see this tragic scene. Great terror, your majesty, let's leave quickly. If we don't leave, it will be too late. At this time, Tianjizi said in a panic. His body couldn't stop shaking, and even his breathing became rapid. Obviously, he was very scared. Although he was also a saint, he was extremely afraid of what would happen next. That was the unspeakable and unparalleled horror he had never seen in his life. Tianjizi had a very strong premonition. If he didn't leave, he would die here. Xuanhuan suddenly opened her eyes. She looked at the enlightenment tree, the tragic scene in front of her, and then turned to look at Qin Mu again. Qin Mu still had a faint smile on his lips, and stared at her with a faint gaze. We can't leave. Xuanhuan opened her red lips and said in an extremely calm tone. She has already entered the game, how can she get out so easily? Tianjizi's face was gloomy. He instinctively wanted to calculate with his fingers, but after the fingers trembled a few times, they finally let go weakly. I thought Tianjizi, calculated the sky, the earth, and everything, but I didn't expect that I would repeatedly fall in the Qin dynasty. Tianjizi shook his head and sighed. He found that as long as he tried to deduce the Qin, he would make various mistakes in the end. The great reputation of a lifetime was completely destroyed in the great Qin dynasty. Your Majesty, what should we do at this time? Tianjizi asked with some despair in his heart. Xuanhuan stared at Qin Mu, moved her jade feet, moved her lotus steps lightly, and walked over without looking back, leaving only a seemingly understatement. The person who tied the bell needs to untie it. If you want to prevent this disaster, only he can do it. As expected of the lord of the Qin dynasty, he can even possess a divine object like the enlightenment tree. Hong Ai admires him, feels ashamed, and is willing to bow down to him. Ji Hong Ai came to Qin Mu, stared at Qin Mu, and bowed slightly. Qin Mu raised his eyebrows slightly and looked at Xuanhuan with interest. Where did Empress Kang you come from with this statement? The enlightenment tree is a peerless divine object. How can I own such a divine object? Qin Mu shook his head and smiled. I trust my intuition. Xuanhuan raised his head and said seriously. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. At the beginning, I gave the future empress her death. I became stronger because I was stupid. Author, Leng Mian Buletin Leng. Chapter 163. Hearing this, Qin Mu laughed. Since you trust your intuition, why are you still here? Didn't you intuitively know that you would fail when you decided to make all these arrangements? Xuanhuan's snowy face was slightly red, and her red lips pursed slightly, but I also believe that man can conquer nature, but I didn't expect the result to be so bad. She had thought that with so many strong men and saints gathered together, even if Qin Mu was prepared, he would eventually fall into a tight siege and would be defeated. However, reality gave her a loud slap in the face, completely subverting her cognition. Qin Mu didn't even need to use any big killing weapon. He could make these people kill each other with just a tree of enlightenment. She planned to use the greed of human nature to lure these saints to Chang'an City. What Qin Mu took advantage of was also the greed of human nature. On this point, she and Qin Mu have something in common. Man can conquer nature. Qin Mu smiled slightly, unable to comment, then changed the topic and asked lightly. Now that you know all this, why didn't you follow your original plan and come to me instead? Could it be that you gave in? Hearing the affirmative answer from Qin Mu, Xuanhuan's heart trembled slightly. To be honest, she still can't believe that the Qin actually possesses such a peerless divine object as the Tree of Enlightenment. If the efficacy of the Enlightenment Tree is true, Wouldn't Great Qin already have a group of strong men, standing among the top forces, overlooking the 9 realms of the human race? Could it be that the other party has been pretending to be a pig and eating the tiger? Or maybe the effect of the enlightenment tree is not actually that powerful and is just an illusion. Xuanhuan's mind was racing, thinking about these questions. But she also knew very well that no matter what, she had no choice. Those saints are no longer reliable. She believed that Qin Mu's plan was not limited to the enlightenment tree, but there should be other more powerful and terrifying backups. After all, if Qin Mu dared to appear here, he must have made complete preparations, otherwise he would never have put himself in danger. She lost. Complete defeat. No matter how hard you struggle, it will be in vain, and may even lead the Kangyu dynasty into the abyss. The fate of the Kangyu dynasty now depends on her undressing Hong Ai. Xie Hong Ai took a deep breath, then raised her head and stared at Qin Mu, and said slowly. That's right, I admit defeat. The Kangyu dynasty is willing to surrender to Great Qin. From now on, it will be at your disposal. When he said these words, Xie Hong Ai felt relaxed all over, as if something was turning. Once upon a time, she had wanted to take Great Qin into her hands. But he didn't expect that just a few months later, Kangyu would become a vassal of Qin. Xie Hong Ai laughed at himself inwardly. Qin Mu was stunned for a moment, then a smile appeared on his lips. As expected of Empress Kangyu, a person who knows the current affairs is a hero, and is capable of both bending and stretching. I am impressed by her. Qin Mu was really surprised. The Empress Kangyu was indeed no ordinary person. Seeing that things were going wrong, she chose to surrender so decisively. This made all the punishments Qin Mu had prepared for Ji Hong Ai suddenly useless. After all, they have surrendered voluntarily, so it would be unjustifiable to punish them again. In this regard, Ji Hong Ai is much better than Zhang Luoshan. But he is a foolish king. Does a foolish king need a reason to punish people? Your Majesty, thank you. Xie Hong Ai lowered his eyebrows and said softly. Qin Mu glanced at her with a hint of amusement, and after thinking for a while, he said. Since Empress Kangyu sincerely surrenders, from now on, Kangyu will be a vassal state of Great Qin and will fight against foreign enemies together with Great Qin. I wonder what Empress Kangyu wants. Xie Hong Ai was shocked. So easy to talk to? She was already prepared for the opponent's lion to open his mouth, and even to the death. But I didn't expect that the other party agreed directly. Xie Hong Ai's beautiful eyes sparkled, and she thought to herself, could it be that the Lord of Great Qin also wanted something? Red clothes collar decree. She bowed her head and said respectfully. No matter what, at least for now, it seems that the crisis of the Kangyu dynasty has been temporarily resolved. However, just as she breathed a sigh of relief, she heard Qin Mu say calmly. For the sake of the friendly relations between our two countries, from now on, you should stay in Dakin. Xie Hong Ai's delicate body froze, and her face instantly turned pale. Stay in Dakin? How could she still have a perfect body? Qin Mu glanced sideways and said, what? Is there any problem? Ji Hong Ai secretly gritted her silver teeth and shook her head. Of course it's no problem, but I have to go back and deal with the succession first. After all, Kangyu can't live without a king for a day. Qin Mu smiled, don't bother, I have already chosen your successor. Huh, Xie Hong Ai's eyes flashed and he vaguely guessed something. Your Princess Xuanhuan would be great. Let her manage Kangyu. Qin Mu said slowly, with a hint of joking on his face. Xie Hong Ai's pretty face was slightly cold and she said nothing. Sure enough, something happened to Xuanhuan. If Empress Kangyu has no objection, let this matter be settled as it is. Qin Mu said calmly. Ji Hong Ai pursed her lips and nodded helplessly. And at this time, the fighting outside the enlightenment tree has gradually ceased. The monks from other forces were covered in blood, scarred and embarrassed, and withdrew from the Enlightenment tree, losing the ability to fight again. They looked at those high and mighty saints and angrily shouted, "You powerful people are too selfish. There are so many leaves of the Enlightenment tea tree, what's wrong with giving one to us? Yes. You are too bullying. You are not worthy of being called saints, you despicable villains. Bullying the weak with the strong, what's the point?" And those saints snorted coldly, not caring about it at all. With the value of the Enlightenment tree, what's wrong with enduring a few insults? But they were relieved at this time. There were too many monks, and most of them were saints whose lifespans were about to end, and they could not fight for a long time. Fortunately, they finally shocked these monks. Nangong Lai of Xiwei Fairy Palace laughed, looked around with a relaxed look, and said loudly, "Everyone, now is the time for us to divide up the Enlightenment tree. Each faction should be divided equally according to the number of saints. What do you think?" However, as soon as he finished speaking, the 7 stars of the Big Dipper were the first to stand up and refute. "At the beginning, I gave the future empress her death. I became stronger because I was stupid." Author, Len Mian Buletin Leng. Chapter 164. Old man, your wishful thinking is really wonderful, the abacus beads are about to fall on my head. The old man headed by the Big Dipper 7 son sneered and said sarcastically, "This time your Xiwei Fairy Palace sent 10 saints. If the Enlightenment tree leaves are distributed according to the number of saints, then your Xiwei Fairy Palace will take the lion's share." Other saints also expressed their opinions. "That's right, if it is distributed according to the number of saints, only your Xiwei Fairy Palace has the most saints here, which is not fair. That's right, in my opinion, it should be distributed according to strength. Yes, your Xiwei Fairy Palace has more saints than us, so of course you have the advantage. The Enlightenment tree is a spiritual object in the world. You Xiwei Fairy Palace want to take advantage of it, which is absolutely not advisable." "I don't agree either." The saints shouted coldly, righteously, with an attitude of absolutely disagreeing. Nangong Lai's face twitched a few times, his eyes were fierce and ruthless, and he looked at the Big Dipper 7 sons angrily. "You 7 old guys, are you deliberately making things difficult for my Xiwei Immortal Palace?" The old man headed by the Big Dipper 7 sons responded tit for tat, showing no weakness. "Nangong Lai, don't think that your Xiwei Immortal Palace has 10 saints coming this time and you have a sure win. At worst, the fish will die and the net will be broken, and it is still unknown who will win." Nangong Lai's face changed slightly, snorted coldly, and said in a cold voice, "If you think it is unfair, then change another way. Whoever has the harder fist will take the Enlightenment tree away." All the saints frowned and said nothing. It is obvious that they do not want to solve this matter by force, but at the same time they want to fight for more benefits for themselves and their own forces. Then, Li Chengtian, the Emperor of Daking, said calmly with a flash of his eyes, "I think that the distribution of the leaves of the Enlightenment tree is secondary. The most important thing is how the Enlightenment tree itself should be distributed. This is the most critical." As soon as these words came out, many saints nodded in agreement. The leaves of the Enlightenment tree are indeed very precious and are rare treasures. But what is more precious is the roots and branches of the Enlightenment tree that produce the leaves of the Enlightenment tree. This is the real 1 in a million divine object. As long as you control the Enlightenment tree, you will have an endless supply of Enlightenment leaves. The saints' eyes flickered, and their eyes looking at the Enlightenment tree became more and more fiery. "But, there is only one Enlightenment tree, how should it be distributed? If there were only the human race, it would be easy to say. Just make an agreement and let all forces jointly protect this Enlightenment tree. But now it is not only the human race itself, but also the barbarians, the demons, and even other ethnic groups may be hidden in secret. The human race is not united yet, and there are so many uncertain factors now. It is not so easy to reach an agreement safely. For a moment, the atmosphere of the whole scene became mysterious. Xuanhuan looked at the scene of the saints arguing and couldn't help shaking her head slightly. She knew this would happen. People have two hearts, one is greedy and the other is unwilling, even saints are no exception. Humans are really fussy. Since you are unwilling to distribute, then this king will accept it without hesitation. At this time, the barbarian king of the barbarians suddenly strode forward and stretched out his huge palm like a palm fan to slap the enlightenment tree. The extremely arrogant aura instantly filled the whole world, making the air stagnant. Seeing this, the saints' faces changed drastically. Looking for death. Insolent. How dare you? Those saints were furious. This barbarian king was so ignorant that he dared to snatch the enlightenment tree under their noses, and he didn't take them seriously at all. This is the enlightenment tree, a divine object that can even help saints comprehend the mysteries of the emperor realm. How can such a heaven-defying divine medicine be allowed to be touched by others? He really deserves to be killed. The saints shouted loudly, and powerful pressure spread in all directions. However, the next moment, the barbarian king smiled grimly and suddenly burst out with a shocking arrogance. A domineering and terrifying aura was released, covering the sky. Boom! As if thunder exploded, the muscles around the barbarian king swelled wildly, rising like hills. Then, the barbarian king's figure suddenly rose 30,000 feet. The whole body burst into brilliant golden light, as if it was made of gold, majestic and domineering. He opened his 5 fingers, and stretched out 5 claws like steel, grabbing the enlightenment tree directly. Roar! From the depths of his throat, a beast-like howl came out, containing destructive fluctuations. With one claw, the void broke into pieces, turned into darkness, and swallowed everything. Seeing this scene, the other saints were so angry that they could not control themselves, and they all tried to stop him. Barbarian king, don't be so presumptuous. How dare you blaspheme the enlightenment tree? Your crime is unforgivable. The attacks of the saints were overwhelming, surging towards the barbarian king like a vast ocean. He. A bunch of trash. You dare to stop me? The barbarian king sneered, not afraid at all, but became more excited. The next moment, his speed soared suddenly, turning into a golden armored war god standing tall. Bang bang bang. Accompanied by a series of dense collisions, the barbarian king swung his giant arm and punched out. His fist was as bright as the sun, and shattered all the magic in the sky. Then his figure flashed, dodged the attacks of many saints, and rushed straight to the towering ancient tree again. Stop! Damn it! The saints were furious and used all kinds of magical skills to try to stop the barbarian king. Boom boom boom. In an instant, endless spiritual energy surged and rolled, turning into endless streams of light that burst in all directions. One saint after another was furious and attacked, with unfathomable power, shaking the sky. For a moment, the entire peak of the Enlightenment Mountain was submerged by the terrifying aura of the saints, and the scene was extremely horrifying. Faced with so many powerful attacks, even a barbarian king had to temporarily avoid the edge and could only temporarily give up snatching the enlightenment tree. Roar! He looked up to the sky and roared, like a dragon roaring and a tiger roaring, shocking the world. In an instant, the barbarian king's body expanded 3 times again, turning into a golden giant 100,000 feet high. He exuded a terrifying aura and pressure all over his body, as if a scorching sun was hanging in the sky. The barbarian king raised his big foot and stepped heavily on the ground. With one kick, the ground was torn apart, cracking thousands of miles, like a meteorite falling to the ground, destroying the world. Ha ha! Come on! The barbarian king laughed loudly, his red hair fluttering up, and the whole person was like a burning sun, with infinite brilliance. At this time, the demon lord of the demon realm also made a sharp explosion. "Barbarian king, I'm here to help you." The black fog around him suddenly boiled and turned into a pitch-black long sword. Cut. The demon lord took a step forward, the black fog was surging, and the demonic energy was rolling. In an instant, he crossed a distance of thousands of feet, came to the front of the saints of the human race, and chopped down brazenly. Warm reminder, if you find that clicking the next page will force you to jump to other websites, please use the chapter error or contact us at the bottom to let us know. We will deal with it as soon as possible. Thank you for your understanding. At the beginning, I gave the future empress her death. I became stronger because I was stupid. Author, Len Mian Buletin Leng. Chapter 165. Click. This sword seemed to split the sky, and endless dark clouds covered the sky, carrying the terrifying power of destroying everything. Devil, how can we, the human race, be the place for you to run wild? Nangong Lai roared angrily, and the sword light around him shot into the sky. Pushing out with one palm, it turned into billions of purple sword rainbows and whizzed away. The purple sword rainbow collided with the pitch-black magic knife, causing a shocking roar. The two intersect and collide, eroding and eliminating each other. But within just a few seconds, Nangong Lai's face could not help but darken a little. I saw that the black energy on the magic sword was thick and corroded everything. Nangong Lai groaned and stepped back 100 feet, looking a little sluggish. "Mr. Nangong, have you run out of gas?" The demon lord smiled solemnly, with a cruel and bloodthirsty look in his eyes. Nangong Lai's face was very ugly. The old injuries on his body had not been completely healed, and now the old diseases had recurred and the injuries were aggravated. Fortunately, other saints from Xiwei Immortal Palace soon came to help him and helped him share some of the pressure. At this time, the other demon saints and barbarian saints also took action one after another. The two sides fought, and the fight was inseparable. For a time, the sky shook and the earth shook, and the sun and moon lost their brightness. This is an epic battle. Each of these saints who participated in the battle was famous, and with just one stamp of their feet, they could intimidate countless young and important people. A series of terrifying aftermath swept across. Whether they were human monks or other alien creatures, their faces were pale and panicked. The battle between the saints was so terrifying that even if you were watching the battle, you still had to endure tremendous pressure. The pretty face of the Yaoguang saint changed slightly, and she led the other Yaoguang disciples to retreat to a safe area aside. The leading disciples or elder protectors of other sect forces were also frightened and quickly led their sects to evacuate this place, fearing that they would be affected. Although everyone is the strongest disciple of their respective sects, they can't get involved in a saint-level fight. For a time, the area around the originally bustling enlightenment tree suddenly became empty. Apart from the saints who were fighting fiercely, there was only the ancient enlightenment tree left. I saw the enlightenment tree tremble slightly, as if it felt that many saints were approaching. Countless green rays of light fell down between the swinging branches and leaves, condensing into a layer of hazy fairy light. In an instant, the whole world was filled with a mysterious atmosphere, which was intoxicating and intoxicating. This sudden change made many saints shudder. They only felt that their realm, which had been dormant for many years, had actually improved, and even their longevity had increased. Divine object. This is truly a unique divine object that is hard to find in the world. All the saints are crazy. With greed flashing in their eyes, they all stopped their movements and looked at the enlightenment tree. I saw only one branch swaying gently, scattering thousands of green clouds, making the four directions full of inspiration, like a fairyland. And on the ancient enlightenment tree, there are countless enlightenment leaves shining with misty brilliance. Kill. This belongs to me. The barbarian king roared, and once again took the lead and rushed forward. The muscles all over his body bulged, Swelling like a horned dragon, his fists clenched, and endless divine light bloomed. With this punch, the void shattered and the world shook. It seemed like there was an endless wilderness, with all kinds of beasts running around and stars exploding. Suppress me. Seeing the barbarian king approaching, the other saints no longer held back and used their own magic weapons to kill him. Demon Lord, I will take the enlightenment tree first. After I get the enlightenment tree, you and I will share it equally. The barbarian king roared. Good. Hearing this, Demon Lord nodded in agreement. He knew that it was obviously impossible for him to swallow the enlightenment tree alone. The best way at present is to join forces with the barbarian king to snatch the enlightenment tree to a foreign land. In this way, no matter how angry the human saints are, they can only stare. Then I saw wisps of dark demonic flames rising and jumping on his body, as if they were going to burn everything in the world. The demons listened to the order and stopped these humans. The demon lord roared sharply and commanded the demon saints to stop the human saints. The human saints also knew the seriousness of the matter, so they gathered their thoughts and gave their strongest blow to attack the demon saints. One after another, the dazzling divine rainbows cut through the void and penetrated the heaven and the earth. The barbarian king took this opportunity to attack the enlightenment tree. I saw his unimaginably huge palm pressing against the tree of enlightenment. Barbarian king. If you dare to touch the enlightenment tree, I will destroy you physically and mentally. Nangong Li stared at the barbarian king with evil eyes. Stop. Other human saints are also filled with murderous intent. Roar. The barbarian king paid no attention and raised his head and roared angrily. At the same time, endless golden blood spurted out from the pores on his body, drowning the enlightenment tree. Wake it up for me. A low roar like a bell came from his mouth, and the sound was deafening, resounding throughout the 9 heavens, like the roar of a demon. The next moment, the entire enlightenment tree actually slowly grew taller. In an instant, the sky fell and the earth fell. I saw countless leaves on the enlightenment tree trembling one after another, as if they came to life. An unimaginable aura of greatness spread from the enlightenment tree. This scene caused the expressions of all the saints of the race to change drastically. No. Barbarian king, you deserve to die. Stop it quickly, otherwise you will fall into purgatory forever and will not be able to transcend. Barbarian king, how dare you? The saints of the human race were burning with anger, roaring and murderous. But the barbarian king couldn't care less at this time. He was seen roaring with a ferocious face. The golden blood in his body was like a mountain and a sea, constantly pouring into the enlightenment tree. With the integration of blood and energy, the enlightenment tree was pulled out bit by bit. And as the enlightenment tree was farther and farther away from the ground, infinite light spread and illuminated the sky. Finally, with his unremitting efforts, the enlightenment tree was pulled out. Suddenly, the whole world was quiet. The saints of the human race, the saints of the demon race, including the disciples of the major forces and sects who were watching from a distance, all stared at the scene blankly. Ha ha! The enlightenment tree is mine. The barbarian king was ecstatic, his eyes were red, and his eyes were filled with tears of excitement. As long as he got the enlightenment tree, he would have the opportunity to step into the emperor realm. By then, he would be the top existence in this world. Thinking of this, the barbarian king couldn't help but look up and laugh, full of vigor and energy, and invincible. Barbarian king, you are looking for death. Kill! Kill barbarian king! The saints of the human race shouted in unison, with murderous intent. An even more frantic melee broke out, and all kinds of devastating attacks swept across the sky. At this moment, all the saints were bloodshot, attacking with all their might, completely ignoring the end of their lifespans, and were determined to kill each other. As long as they could obtain the enlightenment tree, then everything they paid at this time would be worth it. Bang! A saint was blown away, with blood oozing from the corner of his mouth. Puff, cough cough. Another saint of the human race was injured, his sternum collapsed, he vomited blood, and staggered. Bang. Another saint was severely injured, and half of his body was almost broken. On the other side, the saints of the demon race and the saints of the barbarian race were also extremely miserable and seriously injured. But no one stopped, and all the saints used all their offensive means. The battle continued. On the other side, Qin Mu looked at the scene and murmured to himself, "How dare you be so reckless on my territory? You really don't take me seriously. You deserve to die." Ji Hongii was slightly stunned when she heard this. In her heart, she inexplicably felt a sense of anticipation. Is he finally going to take action? How will he do it? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. At the beginning, I gave the future empress her death. I became stronger because I was stupid. Author, Len Mi and Buletin Leng. Chapter 166. Ji Hongii raised her eyes to the void, her beautiful pupils flashing with curiosity. In the void, the barbarian king held the enlightenment tree tightly with both hands, his eyes showing excitement and blazing light. "Get out of here!" he suddenly shouted, emitting infinite divine light all over his body, and every inch of flesh and blood burst out with terrifying power, shocking all directions, and forcing all the surrounding human saints to retreat. "Barbarian king, let go quickly! Barbarian king, let go quickly! If you destroy the enlightenment tree, no one can save you. Yes, the enlightenment tree must not be damaged." The human saints roared fiercely, their eyes were full of ferocity. But the barbarian king was not moved at all, but became more excited. He looked up to the sky and roared. "Ahahaha! You want the enlightenment tree, right? Today, this king will eat it." After that, the barbarian king opened his mouth and was about to bite the enlightenment tree. At this moment, the hearts of all the human saints instantly rose to their throats. Especially Nangong Lai and others, they wanted to rush out and fight with the barbarian king. Even the demon lord couldn't help but curse inwardly, "This barbarian, has he forgotten to cooperate? Haha, I will taste the taste of this ancient enlightenment tree today." Suddenly, the barbarian king frowned slightly. Just as he was about to bite the enlightenment tree, he found that the enlightenment tree in his hand suddenly exuded a mysterious and incomparable Tao rhyme. What's going on? The barbarian king was in doubt. He hurriedly checked carefully, and found that the vitality and strength in his body were actually attracted by this Tao rhyme and slowly injected into the enlightenment tree. This. The barbarian king was shocked and tried to get rid of the absorption. However, he couldn't do it at all. At this time, the attacks of the saints in the human race finally broke through the obstacles of the demon saints and fell on the barbarian king with a more fierce momentum. Puff! The barbarian king's defense was directly torn apart. Blood splattered. The barbarian king was hit hard again. Ah! The barbarian king roared shrilly, as if he was crazy, with red eyes. The saints of the human race also found something wrong. The barbarian king's body, which was originally thousands of feet high, was shrinking rapidly, and the majestic energy it emitted also disappeared quickly, as if it was sucked away. No, there is something wrong with this ancient enlightenment tree. Nangong Lai's heart was pounding. Although he was still far away from the enlightenment tree, he still noticed something unusual. Boom! At this time, the branches of the enlightenment tree swayed, emitting a dazzling light. The fairy mist was lingering, and the fairy spirit was extremely rich. It was actually absorbing the life energy of the barbarian king. What? At this moment, all the saints widened their eyes and were horrified. How strong and powerful the barbarian king's life force is, they all experienced it just now. This ancient enlightenment tree can actually devour his life. It's incredible. At this moment, the branches of the enlightenment tree not only swayed, but also bloomed with millions of divine brilliance. It seemed that some mysterious power was controlling the enlightenment tree, allowing it to continuously absorb the life energy of the barbarian king. The ancient enlightenment tree, which was originally only about 10,000 feet high, turned into hundreds of thousands of feet high in an instant after swallowing the barbarian king's life essence. It was crystal clear, as if it was made of glass divine gold. And it exuded infinite precious light. Its branches were crystal clear, as if they were carved from crystal. No. Save me, save me. The barbarian king roared bitterly. However, no matter how he struggled, it was useless. He could only watch his life essence gradually decrease and turn into nutrients to nourish the enlightenment tree. At this moment, he was really scared. He knew that his life was about to end. No. The barbarian king screamed, "Horse! I am not willing." He roared, unwilling to accept it. He was the king of the barbarians, holding supreme power. How could he die here? And he died at the hands of a tree. But no matter how he roared and wailed, he could not change his fate. His vitality was completely drained, and his skin aged rapidly at a speed visible to the naked eye. His body quickly withered, and finally turned into a mummy, falling to the ground, completely without breath. Instead, the enlightenment tree stretched out thick branches and bloomed billions of fairy clouds, gorgeous and dazzling. Endless auspicious air gushed out, turning into 5-colored auspicious clouds covering the 4 fields, making this area seem like a dreamland in a trance. It was in sharp contrast to the body of the barbarian king. Barbarian king is dead. At this moment, the scene was so quiet that you could hear a pin drop. Whether it was the human race, the barbarian race or the demon race, their faces were pale. This scene was really scary. A generation of barbarian king was actually sucked dry alive like this. Is this the enlightenment tree? Is it really the enlightenment tree? Why is it so strange? All the saints' eyes flickered, and some were in doubt. But no one chose to leave, because the mysterious aura was too strong, especially after absorbing the barbarian king. This aura even reached an unprecedented peak. Some saints even felt that they had seen the threshold of the emperor realm. Although the saints' instincts told them that this place was extremely dangerous, they really wanted to leave. But it was as if they had taken root under their feet, and they couldn't move even half a step. The feeling of sudden enlightenment in this realm was so wonderful that they subconsciously ignored the dangers around them. The branches and leaves of the enlightenment tree became more and more dense and crystal clear, with immortal energy and auspicious colors everywhere. At this moment, the enlightenment tree seemed to have transformed into an immortal, and truly became an immortal tree. The mysterious aura filled the world. The saints couldn't help but squint their eyes, feeling the meaning of sudden enlightenment with their whole body and mind. They didn't even have time to care about the demons in the demon realm, and just wanted to seize the time to comprehend the harvest at this time. However, the next moment, the saints trembled, opened their eyes together, and a look of clarity and horror flashed in their eyes. No, retreat quickly, this tree is still absorbing our power. The old woman of the Yaoguang Holy Land shouted, and her figure instantly disappeared from the spot and retreated backwards. The other saints didn't dare to hesitate and quickly swept back. No matter how good the opportunity is, you still have to be alive to get it. They didn't have much lifespan to begin with, and after a great battle, they could no longer withstand the consumption. However, there are still some younger saints who stay where they are, racing against time to comprehend the enlightenment brought to them by the enlightenment tree. However, at this moment, a violent shaking came from a distance. Then, a majestic breath spread in all directions, shaking the sky, as if this space could not bear it. What is it? Everyone was surprised. Even those saints who tried to leave were stunned. Countless stars appeared in front of them, like a sky full of stars, blocking their way. At the beginning, I gave the future empress her death. I became stronger because I was stupid. Author, Len Mian Buletin Leng. Chapter 167. This, what the hell is this? Break it for me. The saints looked at the stars in front of them, shouted angrily, and took action with all their strength. Boom! The terrible attack fell on these stars, erupting with a deafening sound that caused the void to tremble. But it still failed to destroy these stars. Even the attacks of those saints were absorbed by the stars and integrated into them. How so? The faces of many saints changed drastically, they were frightened and looked horrified. You must know that they are all saints and strong men, and every move contains the mysteries of the Tao, unparalleled in the world. Even destroying the stars is not difficult. These seemingly false stars in front of us actually withstood their attacks. As more and more stars gather together, the aura they emit becomes more terrifying. Vaguely, it actually brought them the threat of death. Especially when they looked around, their scalps felt numb. There are no stars here, it is clearly a vast universe composed of billions of stars. Densely packed, covering the sky. The entire starry sky turned into a huge cage, sealing off the 8 wastelands and trapping this world. Damn it, my power can't break through this starry sky. Where is this place? After repeated attacks without any effect, a saint showed fear on his face and finally couldn't help but scream. This situation was so weird that it made him feel as if he had fallen into another dimension, a dimension that even a saint could not break. I'm afraid we have fallen into a trap, and the enlightenment tree is the bait, luring us into this place. One of the saints said with a look of jealousy. But the existence of the enlightenment tree should be true. This cannot be false. It's just that I can't think of anyone who would do such a big thing. Could it be the work of an immortal? No matter what, we have to find a way to get out of here as soon as possible, otherwise we don't know what will be waiting for us later. Yes, you can't stay here for a long time. The other saints also nodded one after another, their expressions extremely solemn. They had just gone through a melee, and now they were all not in peak condition. If something unexpected happens again, I'm afraid it will be difficult to deal with it, and you may even die here. Don't panic, everyone. This should be a large formation. As long as it is a large formation, it must have its weak points. At this time, Nangong Lai stood up and said in a deep voice. His eyes were as bright as 2 golden swords. Even though his face was pale and his aura had begun to feel a little hollow, he was still sharp and exuding fierce pressure. The power of the saint is evident. Brother Nangong is right. This is indeed a formation. As long as we break the formation, we can leave here. Then let's break the formation quickly. That enlightenment tree is too weird. My lifespan is constantly disappearing. If we work together and attack one place, we will be able to break the formation here. After the saints calmed down, they began to discuss countermeasures. They are all veteran saints who have lived for countless years and experienced countless battles and dangers. Although the situation in front of him was strange, it did not cause confusion. Soon the saints reached a consensus and used magical powers to kill towards the center of the formation. Boom! In an instant, the sky collapsed and the earth shattered, and the wind and clouds howled. The whole space seemed to be boiling. Many saints take action together, how powerful and terrifying it is. If placed outside, it would be enough to easily break a giant mountain range. Endless ripples spread and swept in all directions. Star after star was blown up and turned into ashes. It works. Quick, keep attacking. Nangong Lai looked happy, roared, and poured out all his strength, gathering all the power. When all the saints heard this, they were all refreshed and took action again. Boom boom boom. All kinds of magical powers swept across the sky and bombarded the stars. For a moment, the sky collapsed and the earth shattered, and the stars dimmed. Stars exploded under the collision, turning into streams of light that filled the sky. Ha ha ha, we succeeded. We found the formation's eye, destroy it. Seeing the stars being broken one by themselves, the saints smiled on their faces. At this moment, they were full of confidence and hope. However, it was too early for the saints to be happy. Unexpectedly, the stars that had dimmed suddenly bloomed with brilliant starlight. Immediately afterwards, those broken stars began to slowly heal. Under everyone's gaze, the galaxy prison gathered together again. Finally, it completely solidified, as if the real universe had descended and suppressed it. In an instant, the saints were trapped in place again. It's as if the previous damage didn't exist at all. What's going on? What kind of formation is this? It's so difficult. This is impossible. This scene made the saints' faces change slightly, their eyes showed fear, and they couldn't help but take half a step back. They have traveled across the 9 realms for thousands of years, or even 10,000 years, and have never encountered such a weird thing. No, this is impossible. With so many of us joining forces, how could it be possible? One of the saints looked horrified and shouted. He really couldn't believe that so many saints couldn't break this formation even though they joined forces. Ah, dash dash. Suddenly, a shrill scream came from somewhere, and it was those saints who still insisted on staying next to the enlightenment tree. Everyone looked up, and their pupils suddenly shrank. There were 7 or 8 saints there, all skinny, with dry skin, and exuding a rotten smell. This was obviously the end of their lifespan. But even so, these saints were still unwilling to leave, but seized every minute and every second to comprehend the Tao, trying to break through the obstacle with the help of the enlightenment tree at the last moment of their lives, live again, and even become the emperor. And the enlightenment tree exuded endless divine light, hanging down mist. The light was 3 times brighter than before, and it was extremely rich. It took root in the void, with lush branches and leaves, and the sound of Tao sounded, like a song from nature. Seeing this scene, many saints gasped. Stupid! They will only make the tree stronger and bring us trouble. Since we can't break this star formation, let's work together to attack the enlightenment tree. Everyone, what are you still hesitating about? If we don't take action, we will all be finished. Nangong Lai took a deep breath and shouted. As soon as the voice fell, all the saints turned their heads and looked at the huge towering ancient tree, their eyes flashing with murderous intent. This enlightenment tree is too weird. If it is allowed to absorb the life energy of so many saints, it will definitely be more terrifying. At that time, they who are trapped in the star needle will also become nutrients. Kill. Almost instantly, all kinds of terrifying magical powers, magic weapons, and secret techniques slashed towards the enlightenment tree. The entire sky was lit up with countless beams of light, the void was shaking, and the scene was horrifying. At this moment, outside the Zhou formation, Yao Guang Saint Chen Yaoxi was kneeling on the ground in humiliation, with a look of unwillingness on her pretty face. Her body was tightly bound by a black chain in a tortoise-shell binding posture, and the binding technique was extremely professional. It was obvious that Qin Mu had done it. At the beginning, I gave the future empress her death. I became stronger because I was stupid. Author, Len Mian Buletin Leng. Chapter 168. Shen Yaoxi's beautiful eyes looked around with sadness and resentment. At this time, outside the Zhou starry formation, pillars of light shone, and chains shuttled through them. These chains were engraved with mysterious runes, intertwined with invisible shackles, and imprisoned all the disciples of the sect present. There are Gu Liyulai and others who are disciples of Xiang Palace, followers of Daking dynasty in Fengling domain, disciples of Ziwei Immortal Palace, disciples of Baidu sect in Tiankai domain, as well as sect leaders, elders, disciples of other small sects, etc. All in all, as long as they did not enter the realm of saints and were not monks of Great Qin, they were all suppressed. They knelt there and could do nothing but curse loudly. Shen Yaoxi bit her lip, her pretty face turned pale. In front of her, a figure stood with hands behind her back, standing proudly in the sky. He is wearing a golden dragon robe, a purple gold crown on his head, and a jade belt around his waist. He is handsome, and has a vast aura, like an abyss or an ocean. It was Qin Mu. "You, let us go quickly, otherwise you will be dead when the elders come out." Shen Yaoxi had shame and anger on her face, but she didn't dare to speak loudly. She only dared to threaten in a low voice, for fear of suffering more torture. She is beautiful and charming, her body is white and crystal clear. But at this time, her clothes were stained with blood, her pretty face was extremely pale, and the corners of her mouth were bleeding, making her look very charming. She stared at the man in front of her with a trace of hatred in her eyes. But it was more of a look of fear. It was obvious that the man in front of her had brought many psychological shadows to her. When Qin Mu heard her voice, he turned and looked back with a smile on his lips. Then he sat on the back of a female disciple from Shaking Light Holy Land, leaning against Zhang Luoshan's delicate body behind him. Feeling the soft elasticity under his body and back, Qin Mu shook his head, sighed and said, "You are so unscrupulous in my territory of Great Qin, and now you want to kill me, you are really arrogant." When Shen Yaoxi heard this, her eyes became even more humiliated, and she weakly retorted, "Lord of Great Qin, don't try to confuse right and wrong. When were we going to kill you? It was clearly you who attacked us while we were not paying attention." When she thought of this, Shen Yaoxi became extremely angry and bit her teeth secretly with hatred. She was originally discussing with the disciples of the Yaoguang Holy Land on how to rescue the Supreme Elders from the sudden appearance of the formation. Unexpectedly, the Lord of Qin suddenly appeared behind them and suppressed them all with absolute force. Before they could react, their cultivation was blocked and their power was imprisoned. Although he did not die, he became a prisoner and could only be at the mercy of others. Qin Mu smiled and said calmly, "In Great Qin, I am the way of heaven. I can do whatever I want. It's not your turn to tell me what to do." You. Hearing this, Shen Yaoxi almost cried in anger. She, the majestic saint of the Holy Land, had never experienced such cowardice. "Lord of the Qin dynasty, you are making enemies of all forces. You will surely be the enemy of the whole world, and you will never be at peace. Aren't you afraid?" she asked angrily with tears in her eyes. Qin Mu smiled faintly and asked, "Could it be that if I don't do this, you forces will let me go and let the Qin go?" Shen Yaoxi was stunned when she heard this, her pink lips slightly opened, but she didn't know what to say. Nangang Lai of Ziwei Immortal Palace has made it clear that if something happens here, he will go to Chang'an City in Daqin, which is obviously not a good thing. The Holy Land of Shaking Light and Ziwei Immortal Palace are in an alliance, and they will definitely advance and retreat together and head to Chang'an City together. Even if it is not an alliance, their Supreme Elder will definitely not let this opportunity pass by. After all, if you can take advantage of the situation to blackmail a great dynasty, you will definitely be able to obtain a lot of training resources. There may even be unexpected gains. No one would refuse such a good thing. This is like walking on the road and someone suddenly wants to give you money. Only a fool would miss it. Thinking of this, her face turned slightly pale. Qin Mu was too lazy to pay attention to her now. He stood up from the human chair and continued to count the sect disciples present to avoid any mistakes. He had already memorized everyone before, and he was ready to wipe out all the forces that entered Great Qin without sparing anyone. Shen Yaoxi looked at the other party's back, feeling an indescribable complex emotion welling up in her heart. As a saint of the shaking light Holy Land, wherever she goes, she is the center of attention, admired and revered by everyone. Men, in particular, were extremely attentive to her. Even Li Chengtian, the emperor of the Daking dynasty, treated her with great courtesy and even proposed marriage several times. However, today, she was treated like a prisoner and even knelt on the ground. She had never experienced anything like this in her life. Shen Yaxi even had doubts about her appearance for a while. Could it be that the red dress she wore today was too ugly? Shen Yaxi was thinking wildly in her heart. At this time, an angry curse was heard not far away. "Damn guy, let me go quickly, I am the Prince of Daking, do you know what you are doing?" A man in a python robe was forced to kneel on the ground, cursing angrily and looking at Qin Mu with fierce and vicious eyes, as if he wanted to eat Qin Mu. "Prince Daking, Li Dao." Shen Yaxi looked along the sound and murmured softly. Qin Mu also noticed the other party, turned his eyes to him, and smiled softly, "So it's the Prince of Daking, I'm sorry. Then why don't you let me go quickly? Otherwise, it will be too late when my father comes out," Li Daiji roared and gritted his teeth. He just wanted to come here with his father to see it, but he never thought that his father was trapped, and even he became a prisoner inexplicably. This is simply a great shame. Qin Mu's smile became brighter, nodded, and ordered, "Hong Ai, go, let go of his hands and feet." Ji Hong Ai, who was standing by, was slightly stunned when she heard the words, and then she glanced at Qin Mu, and immediately understood in her heart. She bowed respectfully and obediently, "Yes, Hong Ai obeys the order." Then she moved her jade feet and walked in front of Li Daiji with lotus steps. Li Daiji struggled hard, raised his head with difficulty, and looked at Ji Hong Ai who kept walking towards him, with a hint of heat in his eyes. "Hey, if you can give this woman to this prince, then this prince can forgive your mistakes." Li Daiji turned his head to look at Qin Mu, smiled, and prepared to say something else. However, before he could say the next word, he saw Ji Hong Ai's beautiful eyes were full of evil, and her jade arm waved. I saw several rays of light flashing, and in an instant they penetrated Li Daiji's limbs. Blood sprayed, limbs flew, and the sound of bones breaking resounded throughout the venue. Li Daiji's legs and hands separated from his body, and he turned into a human pig, twisting on the ground. "Ah!" And the whole person also screamed miserably, twitching all over, rolling on the ground. Although with his strength and realm, he could recover his limbs after being cut off, and even forcibly shut down the pain. But now all his strength was suppressed, and he couldn't do it at all. Seeing this, everyone around was trembling with fear. Li Daiji widened his eyes and angrily untied the red clothes. "What are you doing? How dare you hurt me?" Then he endured the pain again, raised his head in the pool of blood, looked at Qin Mu, and said in disbelief, "Didn't you say you would let me go? How can you go back on your word? Aren't you afraid that my Daking dynasty will invade Dakin?" Qin Mu smiled and replied, "That's right, I said I would let you go, and now your hands and feet are indeed free." Li Daiji. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. At the beginning, I gave the future empress her death. I became stronger because I was stupid. Author, Len Mian Buletin Leng. Chapter 169. Li Gaidu never expected that letting go would actually mean this. Are you kidding me? He glared angrily, his eyes red, full of resentment and murderous intent. He is the majestic Prince of Daking. What a noble status he has been reduced to such a state. It's too noisy, Hong Yi, tell him to shut up. Qin Mu frowned and ordered again calmly. Ji Hong Ai nodded slightly, without hesitation, he raised the knife and cut off Li Guidance's head in an instant. Blood surged. Li Guo's body collapsed with a loud bang, and blood flowed all over the ground, which was disgusting. Is this killing? When everyone around saw this scene, they were all shocked and couldn't help but swallow their saliva. You actually killed our highness. Our majesty will never let you go. The monks of the Daking dynasty showed grief and anger in their eyes and shouted one after another. When Ye Jinghong of Ziwei Immortal Palace saw this scene, his delicate body couldn't help but tremble slightly, and silently lowered his head, trying to reduce his sense of presence. Shen Yaoxi, the holy lady of shaking light, was also extremely frightened. This emperor of Qin was so cruel and ruthless, and the majestic Prince Daking actually killed him at his will without leaving any room for mercy. It is conceivable that if the emperor of Daking knew about this, he would definitely fight to the death with the Dakin dynasty. But the emperor of Qin didn't seem to care at all. Shen Yaoxi became increasingly desperate. What kind of ruthless person is this? At this time, Qin Mu blinked innocently. Hey, I just told him to shut up, I didn't tell you to kill him. Xie Hongyi also blinked, looking confused. Huh. Qin Mu spread his hands and said with a half smile, okay now, Yu dynasty got into trouble and actually killed the prince of Diqing dynasty. Xie Hongyi. The corners of her eyes twitched slightly, and she was speechless for a moment, not knowing what to say. But now that the matter has been done, let's do it thoroughly. Anyway, there is no way back for her. A determined thought flashed through Xie Hongyi's mind. She looked back at the remaining monks of the Daking dynasty, with a hint of indifference in her eyes. I saw her palm raised slightly, and a ball of flames condensed and formed in her hand. It was a purple-black flame with a destructive aura, as if it contained the terrifying power to burn everything, causing the surrounding temperature to rise sharply. Upon seeing this, the faces of many monks from the Daking dynasty suddenly changed. You, what do you want to do? Our majesty will never let you go. Stop, Xie Hongyi, what are you going to do? How dare you? Everyone screamed in fear and ran away like crazy. Oh! Ji Hongyi sneered, waved his arm suddenly, and the flames came out of his hand. The flames cut through the air, like a giant dragon with fangs and claws, burning up all the void wherever it went. Bang! The fireball exploded, and the raging flames spread, instantly covering all the Daking monks. I saw everyone wailing and screaming, turning into ashes and dissipating in the air. After doing all this, Xie Hongyi patted her feet lightly, returned to Qin Mu again, and said respectfully, Your Majesty, Hongyi has represented the Kangyu dynasty and killed all the remnants of the Diqing dynasty who came to offend Diqing. After hearing Xie Hongyi's report, Qin Mu nodded with satisfaction, yes, not bad, reward. He found that he really liked Ji Hongyi's character more and more, he was decisive in killing and able to bend and stretch. If this woman can be completely controlled, she will be a great weapon whether it is governing the country or conquering other countries. Thank you, Your Majesty, for the gift. After hearing this, Xie Hongyi's pretty face showed a happy expression as she bowed to thank her. And Qin Mu was not stingy, and casually threw a soul-boosting pill to her, it's for you. Xie Hongyi was stunned for a moment, then quickly reached out to take it. She couldn't believe it. She originally thought that Qin Mu just said it casually, but she didn't expect that there was actually a reward. And it seems that the level of this elixir is not low at all. Hongyi thanks Your Majesty. Xie Hongyi said his thanks again, his expression even more humble and respectful. Qin Mu waved his hand and stared at her, eat it? Xie Hongyi hesitated for a moment, then swallowed it in one gulp. Qin Mu nodded with satisfaction. Then he lightly snapped his fingers. A curtain of light appeared in front of everyone, and the scene inside was exactly what the Zhoutian star formation was like. At this time, in the Zhoutian Xingdu formation, the attacks of the saints also came to the enlightenment tree. Countless powerful spells suddenly landed on the enlightenment tree. In an instant, the sky collapsed and the earth shattered, and the situation changed. A destructive shockwave exploded, sweeping across the wasteland. However, what shocked everyone was that the Enlightenment tree still stood firmly, without any damage, and even the leaves did not tremble for a moment. The saints were shocked to the point of being beyond belief. Not only that, the chi of the Enlightenment tree followed their attacks and connected to their bodies, imprisoning them and making them unable to move. How could this be so? What the hell is this Enlightenment tree? What's wrong? The Enlightenment tree has become stronger and stronger after absorbing the life energy of those saints. This must be something owned by someone, and someone is controlling it behind the scenes. The saints looked at each other, and saw deep fear in each other's eyes. The strangeness of this Enlightenment tree was beyond their expectations. They were sure that if they let this Enlightenment tree continue to absorb their life energy, it would not take long before they would all perish here. We must leave. Otherwise, we will die. No. This formation is too strange. Even if we join forces, it is difficult to break it and we can't get out at all. Damn it! We are trapped. The saints were anxious, shocked and angry. Especially Nangong Lai of Ziwei Fairy Palace, who was extremely irritable and attacked the Enlightenment tree frantically. The demon lord of the demon realm led the demons to attack the formation and tried to break it. But everything was in vain. This is not a solution. Nangong Lai's eyes were red, and the veins on his forehead were throbbing. He almost lost his mind. The same was true for other saints. This sense of powerlessness made them feel desperate. As time passed, the faces of the saints became paler and their breath became weaker. At this time, even mortals with no cultivation could see that the lives of these saints were coming to an end. When the saints of Yao Guangshen Yaoxi, Gu Liulai of Xiang Palace, Ye Jinghong of Ziwei Fairy Palace and other women saw this scene, they all had tears in their eyes and fell into deep despair. It was not until this moment that they suddenly realized that their great elders might never come out again. At this time, Qin Mu asked lightly, "Do you want to save them?" At the beginning, I gave the future empress her death. I became stronger because I was stupid. Author, Len Mian Buletin Leng. Chapter 170. Qin Mu's indifferent words reached the ears of many female cultivators and rang clearly in their minds. Hearing this, Shen Yaoxi, Gu Liulai, Ye Jinghong and other female cultivators were all startled. They all turned around and saw Qin Mu sitting on the human chair, looking at them lazily. "Do you want to save them?" Qin Mu said calmly, looking at these so-called saints and fairies. After hearing Qin Mu's question, there was silence in the venue. Many female nuns looked at me, and I looked at you, with different expressions. All of this was done by you. Shen Yaoxi bit her lip, her beautiful eyes widened, staring at Qin Mu without blinking, full of shock and confusion. She originally thought that Qin Mu just happened to seize the opportunity when the saint was trapped, and that the saint's trap had nothing to do with Qin Mu. But now that she heard this, she realized that Qin Mu had done everything from the time the saint was trapped to the time they were captured. "What do you think?" Qin Mu raised his eyebrows and looked at her with a half-smile. Shen Yaoxi's delicate body trembled slightly, and an inexplicable fear surged into her heart, making her whole body feel cold. She really couldn't figure out how the Qin dynasty could use such methods to trap so many saints. Isn't this comparable to the methods of the great emperor? For a moment, Shen Yaoxi couldn't help but look at Qin Mu. Her beautiful eyes were stunned, and her eyes were a little dazed. Gu Liulai, Ye Jinghong and other women on the side also had strange expressions on their faces, with expressions of surprise and uncertainty. They had the same idea as Shen Yaoxi and couldn't believe it. But they thought about it carefully and couldn't help but fell silent. The facts were before their eyes, and they couldn't help but not believe it. While everyone was thinking, Qin Mu stepped forward slowly, walked directly to Shen Yaoxi, and looked down at her. "You, What are you going to do? Sensing Qin Mu's approach, Shen Yaoxi's heart trembled and she became extremely nervous. Do nothing. Qin Mu smiled, then reached out and patted her tender and soft shoulder, and said softly, I just want to remind you that the life and death of these saints depend on your thoughts. Shen Yaoxi woke up from a dream and glanced at the saints who were still struggling in the formation. She couldn't help but swallow, and then turned to look at Qin Mu, her beautiful eyes full of fear and horror. No. No. Don't mess around. If you kill these saints, you will be completely hostile to the entire Apocalypse Jade and Wind Spirit realm, and you will definitely pay a heavy price. When the time comes, our sect master and the sect masters of other forces will definitely unite to punish Qin. As long as you let the Supreme Elders go, I guarantee that our Yaoguang Holy Land will never invade Dakin again in the future. You can trust me on this. I guarantee you this as the Yaoguang Saint. And we can also form an alliance and advance and retreat together. Shen Yaoxi hurriedly persuaded, hoping that Qin Mu could understand the pros and cons and let them go. Unfortunately, Qin Mu didn't seem to hear it, and his eyes didn't waver at all. Since I dare to do it, I'm not afraid of the consequences. Qin Mu's mouth curved slightly, and his tone was calm and distant. As he spoke, Qin Mu stretched out a finger and traced it on Shen Yaoxi's beautiful red lips. In an instant, Shen Yaoxi's delicate body couldn't help but tremble slightly, her pretty face blushed instantly, her beautiful and flawless face was covered with blush, as delicate as the peach blossoms in March. Her heart was beating rapidly. I don't care who you are, if you dare to attract Qin's attention, you will suffer the consequences. Qin Mu's eyes were cold and his voice was indifferent. Shen Yaoxi sighed inwardly. She knew that no matter what happened today, Qin Mu would not let them go. The only thing she hopes for is that the Supreme Elders can escape and ascend to heaven on their own. But the reality is extremely cruel. The saints are trapped under the Enlightenment Tree, with no hope of escape. Well. Thinking of this, Shen Yaoxi sighed softly and closed her beautiful eyes as if resigned to her fate. What are you going to do to let the Supreme Elders go? After a long time, Shen Yaoxi barely suppressed the panic in her heart, mustered up the courage, raised her head, looked at Qin Mu, and asked. These Supreme Elders are the foundation of Yaoguang Holy Land. Once they die here, the strength and reputation of Yaoguang Holy Land will be greatly reduced, or even plummet, and it will never be the same again. As a saint of the Shaking Light Holy Land, she would never want to see this happen. It's very simple. Hearing this, Qin Mu smiled faintly, reached out and pinched Shen Yaoxi's delicate chin, forcing her to meet his gaze. Kneel down and beg me. Qin Mu whispered with an evil smile on his lips. Kneel down and beg you. Hearing Qin Mu's words, Shen Yaoxi was stunned for a moment, then her pretty face turned red with embarrassment, her beautiful eyes widened, and she glared at Qin Mu angrily. Don't even think about it. Shen Yaoxi gritted her silver teeth, her pretty face was blushing, and her beautiful eyes were about to burst into flames. To have the majestic saint of the Shaking Light Holy Land kneel down at the feet of a man and beg for mercy. For her, who is so proud, this is simply more uncomfortable than killing her. She is a saint, the most outstanding disciple of the Holy Land of Light. Moreover, she has been selected as the next head teacher of Yaoguang Holy Land. If she is really allowed to kneel down and beg for mercy from a man in front of hundreds of disciples of Yaoguang Holy Land, then she will completely miss the position of head teacher. Even if she survived in the end, she would definitely become the laughing stock of the Yaoguang Holy Land and become the topic of conversation for the world after dinner, which would be unforgettable forever. Although she was kneeling now, she was forced to do so, which was completely different from kneeling down and begging for mercy. Oh! Looking at Shen Yaoxi's angry look, Qin Mu's mouth showed a hint of sarcasm, and he gently loosened the fingers pinching her chin. Don't agree. Qin Mu stood opposite Shen Yaoxi with his arms folded, staring down at her. He continued with a teasing look in his eyes, "Then I will destroy them, and then take you back to the palace to enjoy you." Hearing Qin Mu's words, Shen Yaoxi's face turned pale, and her heart sank to the bottom of the valley. If she was really taken into the imperial city and taken to the palace by Qin Mu, she could not imagine what her tragic ending would be like. Shen Yaoxi bit her red lips with her pearly teeth, and tears rolled down her beautiful eyes. The heart was filled with fear, humiliation, and resentment. At this time, Qin Mu had already made a move. A monstrous power suddenly descended, like a prehistoric beast awakening, which made people palpitate. Feeling Qin Mu's breath at this moment, Shen Yaoxi's delicate body trembled fiercely, her beautiful eyes widened, and her pretty face was full of horror. She felt a terrifying pressure that was like destroying the world. Qin Mu put the 5 fingers of his right hand together and grabbed the void in front of him. I saw the Zhou Tianxingde formation lit up with dazzling light, the dazzling starlight filled the 4 directions, and the vast formation pattern flowed rapidly. Then, countless stars trembled slightly, turned into countless meteors, and smashed into those already decayed saints. Rumble. A series of deafening explosions passed through the formation and transmitted to the outside world, resounding through the sky, making people shudder. The roar of stars exploding sounded, and with each collision, the bodies of those saints would burst a little, and blood would splash all over the void. They had already experienced a great war, and their lives were constantly weakening, and they had long lost much resistance. In the blink of an eye, the bodies of those saints and elders who were originally majestic and solemn were shattered and turned into pieces of meat paste. Hiss. Everyone present took a breath of cold air and was stunned. In just a moment, more than half of the original dozens of saints had been lost, and the remaining 20 or so were all the highest level beings. They were more or less injured, their breath was weak, and they were in a mess. No. Watching those elders die one by one, Shen Yaoxi could no longer care about anything else, and shouted with red eyes.